people across the world have become more and more civilized, affluent. Have more and more economic freedom, traveling, buying, acquiring. But human beings are still violent, as violent as they were. It is rather important for one to go into this question of violence carefully, deeply. Understanding the violence within, one can understand the violence of the world in various forms. It is rather easy to notice those violence in extreme forms: fight, war, and people are confused when seeing those violence taking place. However, here, we mean by violence something deeper, something more subtle, more deep seated, more fundamental. When one cannot observe those subtle violence, one must be confusing. One must be confused about all kinds of external violence. It demands energy. To see the violence in ourselves. It is rather easy to see the violence externally, to condemn it, to criticize it, to say it's not right to be violent. But going into the self and see the violence as it is, it's not something comfortable. without understanding the mental violence human beings are going through. One can't understand various forms of violence taking place all the world. When one is at all serious about looking at oneself in the daily living, one can see that this mental violence is everywhere. The self-assertion, kindness, competitiveness, greediness, envy, anger, vanity, conformity, being judgmental. Various opinions, impose what should be on other people. Seeking pleasure. To understand those violence needs human instinction. That is to directly perceive. But it is rather easy and convenient to use thoughts to imagine what is violence. Therefore, whatever it thinks is still the result of the thought. which is different from the direct perception of violence. Direct perception means that the mind can feel the violence directly. The division, the conflict, the urge. When the self centered activities are operating. And those violences are accumulating, leading to more hatred, resentment, and eventually explode in various severe and extreme forms. And we don't deal with those fundamental violences. The society is based on this self, the ego, where many kinds of self centered activities, which are all violence, are justified. And we accept this violent living as a norm. Therefore, the mind stops understanding what is violence, only get shocked by the result, by the phenomenon of the violence taking place of the place. And those incidents of violence becomes the topics of the verbal mind. But nothing is really solved. At the same time, this violent living breeds tremendous mental issues, isolation, loneliness, aggression, depression. With various neurotic symptoms. But in that state of mind, it can't see the direct association between its mental challenges and the extreme violence taking place all over the world. Seeing all this, not as an idea or a viewpoint, but as an actual fact, what is one to do? to end all those violences. The violences are everywhere in man's daily living. And those people around. When man is really serious, what is one to do? To end this violence. Obviously, one can do nothing about the violence in others. Because as long as one do something about that, one only add more violence to it. And unless one deals with the violence within oneself, that's to change oneself completely, to live a life without any violence. And how to do that? Does the mind depict an image of non-violence and the mind pursue it? I should not be violent. In that pursuit, the mind is still violent, isn't it? Because that pursuit is still ambition. And ambition is violent, isn't it? Please don't agree or disagree. Please perceive it directly. When man is ambitious, can man have love? When man has love, is one ambitious? Please see it. It is very logical. Ambition, seeking, competition, becoming. That state of mind is violent. Obviously, one can't pursue an image of nonviolence to be nonviolent. That's an illusion, because that whole process is still ambition, which is violent. So, can one stay with non-violence? So, can one stay with violence without creating an image of non-violence? That's to say, one gives one's total energy to all the violences. Ambition, jealous, envy, competitiveness, desire, selfishness, and all that, to study them, understand them. Which demands tremendous observation. Which demands tremendous observation. In that deep understanding of this violence, the self-centered activities, the mind transforms itself. And this total understanding is also the process of standing alone. The mind looks into the issue independently, observe it actually, not through the filter of thoughts, ideas, but perceive and look directly. And when it's free of violence, when it's light to oneself, and which also can possibly enlighten others. Therefore, in face of the violence of the world and people over the place, can one end the violence in oneself completely? Otherwise, people keep conforming to each other and imitating each other. And through that, the violence is spread all over the place. Seeing this violent nature of society with its establishment that perpetuate the violence, there's egoism and individualism. Can one be out of that society mentally, completely? can one live a life which is free of any violence? In this violent world? The very doing so embarks on a journey of true meditation. When the mind is free of any violence, the mind has no issues, and it can solve any issues.